All right, let's talk about one of the coolest, most mind-bending frontiers in AI today, teaching a computer how to be creative. And I don't just mean solving a puzzle or crunching numbers. We're talking about composing music, something we think of as uniquely, profoundly human.
So let's just get right to the heart of it. The big question that's hanging in the air. Can a machine, just a bunch of code in silicon, ever really be the next Mozart? Is it actually creating art, or is it just getting incredibly good at faking it? Now, before we can even try to answer that, we gotta agree on what we even mean by creativity, right? It feels so, I don't know, magical. But believe it or not, researchers have actually found a pretty straightforward way to pin it down. Okay, so it really boils down to two key ingredients. First, whatever you create has to be novel. It's got to be new, right? Not just a copy-paste job. But that's not the whole story. I mean, you could invent a toaster that also paints your fingernails. That's novel, for sure. But is it valuable? Probably not. And that's the second piece of the puzzle, value. The creation has to actually be good or useful or meaningful in some way. And what I love about this particular definition is how it takes that idea one step further. It's not just about the final thing you create, the product. It's about the process you use to get there. And check out that word agent. That could be a person or, you guessed it, a computer. The focus is on how those novel and valuable ideas come to be.
This whole debate is not some new 21st century thing. Oh no, it goes way, way back. We're talking 1843, when Ada Lovelace basically said, look, computers can only do what we tell them to do. They can't come up with anything on their own. But then, fast forward about 100 years, and you get Alan Turing. And he had a totally different take. He said, wait a minute, what if a machine could learn? Then maybe it could surprise us. And that's the fundamental argument we are still grappling with today. Okay, so to really dig into this and analyze it properly, a lot of experts use this super handy framework. It's called the 4Ps, and it's a great way to break down any creative act from, well, 4 different perspectives. First up, we have the person. This is pretty straightforward. It's the who. Who is doing the creating? It could be an artist, a scientist, or in our case, it's the AI. We're looking at what makes that agent creative. What are its skills? What does it know? What's its code like? All right, second P, the process. So if the person is the who, the process is the how. What steps did they take? What methods did they use? For an AI, this is literally the algorithm. It's us popping the hood and seeing how the engine works. And naturally, that process leads to the third P, the product. This is the what. It's the actual thing that gets made. The song, the painting, the piece of music. It's the final result that we can all look at or listen to and judge. And the last one, the fourth P, is press. And no, this doesn't mean the media. Think of it more like social pressure or the environment. It's the surrounding culture. See, no creative work exists in a bubble. The press is the audience, the critics, the times we live in, the whole context that ultimately decides if something is valuable or not. It's the part that answers the big, so what question. Okay, so with that framework in our back pocket, let's get into the really cool stuff. How does an AI actually write music? Well, it turns out there are 2 main approaches, 2 totally different philosophies. You can think of it as the difference between following a super strict recipe versus just learning the flavor of a cuisine. So the first method, the classic one, is what we call a rule-based system. The best way to think about this is like giving the computer a massive, dusty textbook on music theory. Every single rule, how chords should follow each other, how melodies should be shaped, all of it is painstakingly programmed right into the code. And the process is exactly what you'd expect. Very logical, very step-by-step. The programmer feeds it all the rules, like how to sound like Bach. Then the system just starts generating notes, maybe kind of randomly at first. And then, this is the crucial part, it checks its own work against that rulebook, throwing out anything that breaks a rule and tweaking what's left until it's perfect. It's like a super obedient, very meticulous student. Okay, but now we have the modern approach, deep learning. And this is a whole different ballgame. Forget the rule book. Just throw it out. Instead of rules, you give the AI data, a ton of data. We're talking a huge library of music. It doesn't follow the recipe. It learns the flavor by listening to thousands and thousands of songs. And this is where it gets kind of mind-blowing.
The AI will analyze, let's say, a massive database of thousands of folk tunes or blues solos. And without anyone telling it the rules, it just starts to, well, it starts to hear the patterns. It figures out on its own what makes a certain style of music tick. And then it uses that intuition it developed to compose brand new music in that style. We're talking about systems like Deep Bach or Folk RNN that can do just that. So that's really the key difference right there. The rule-based system is the chef who follows the recipe perfectly, every single time. All its knowledge was programmed in. The results are good, but predictable. The deep learning system, on the other hand, learns the flavor. It's like a chef who's tasted everything in the pantry and is now just improvising. The results can be way more surprising, sometimes even to the people who built it.
But look, this doesn't mean we've solved it. We're not there yet. Creating a truly creative AI composer is, well, it's still very much an unfinished symphony. Researchers are staring down some seriously tough challenges to get to that next level.
So, what's next on the to-do list? Well, it boils down to 3 huge goals. First up is structure. It's one thing to generate a cool little melody, but can you teach an AI to build a whole cohesive song? With different parts that all fit together? Then there's emotion. Can you get the AI to write music that actually makes you feel something? Joy, tension, sadness. That's a big one. And finally, control. The goal here is to make the AI a real collaborator, where a human can actually guide it, saying things like, hey, make this part a little more intense, or I need a happier vibe here. And all of this leads us to a really fascinating final thought. As these tools get more and more sophisticated, as they go from just following orders to becoming these intuitive, creative partners, maybe the future isn't about humans versus machines. Maybe the most incredible art, the most amazing music is going to come from a collaboration between the two, a whole new kind of symphony. What do you think the future of art is going to look like?